Welcome to the Safari Mission Podcast. I'm Reverend Vidar Ligard.
And I am Reverend Catherine Ligard.
And we want to share with you the Word of God to bring to light areas that we have walked through in our own lives.
Let's get right to the Word. We just want to talk to you today about increasing your financial value, part 2. We had one already, so this is the second one. So if you didn't listen to the first one, we encourage you to go back and listen to the first one.
Today, we're going to talk about how to increase the value of what you do.
In other words, your financial value, not your worth as a person, but what you can produce and how you can attract more opportunities that attracts more income and more finances in your life.
So we're talking here about how to increase the value of what you do. Why can some charge 30, 50, sometimes even 100% more? And sometimes it's the workmanship, but a lot of times it's the sales process. A lot of times it's the project management side. A lot of times it's how you communicate with whoever you're providing services for.
Right. And they all matter. It's not just one thing, but it's the wholeness of all of them combined that has to be there if you're going to go to the next level yourself, if you're going to take your business to the next level, if you're going to take your service to the next level. It's all of these things that has to be brought to a higher level if you're going to see an increase in your personal life and your professional life.
Yeah, so how to get to the next level, how to increase in value. There's another example I would like to bring out. I was actually invited to preach at this other conference, and you've already committed to being on our schedule, or there are other things that you allow to become a higher priority for you, and so you drop the one commitment and you take the other one. And we schedule about 200 courses every year. It becomes very difficult to get a high quality person to replace somebody else when you call on Sunday and class is supposed to start on Monday and say, hey, I had something else that come up. So even though that you're high quality in the classroom, then I'm sorry, but there are certain guest instructors that they don't come back because...
Yeah, why would you do that? You might be good in the classroom, but you cannot lead yourself. You cannot manage yourself here because you don't even know how to prioritize, right? And so that hurts you even if you're a good instructor as far as the classroom, but your inability to keep your personal life in order and prioritize well is now blocking your opportunity to come and teach.
So last time we talked about workmanship and craftsmanship, about physical products. We talked about lawyers. Now we're talking about in ministry. And really it's the same principles in all these different professions, if you want to call it that. Lots of different stories, and you can really work on yourself to increase the value of what you produce. And a lot of times it's not the actual craftsmanship of the product you deliver. A lot of times it's the project management and the communication and things that go around what you're doing.
Yeah, it really is both. And I've seen so many people are struggling to focus on what they need to focus in order to be successful. What do I mean by that? People see maybe they have a commitment, like you just said, they are supposed to come and teach in a classroom, but maybe they got invited to this very exciting conference and they see that as a bigger opportunity. So they drop what they consider more mundane, more normal, more ordinary, and then they go run over to what seems more exciting. That is not a good thing because you are losing focus in your life, because your integrity is going to take you places that your anointing cannot take you. And you sticking to your word is integrity. But you being distracted and dropping something you already committed to go to something that looks to be more of an opportunity just makes you unstable in your ways. And that is not the road to success. The road to success is usually through the mundane, through the consistency, through the stability, and through honoring all the words that you have given out.
I remember King Solomon talks about this, that a worker who's dependable, because this is really dependability. He says somebody who's not dependable is like smoke to the eyes. And so that goes along with this. These are not issues that belong to a particular country, a particular culture. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether we worked in Europe, we worked in North America, we worked in Africa. We see these things all across all the different continents. I remember one story I was in the US flying into a city. I was needing a haircut. And so I asked some friends there about a good hair salon, and they said, use this particular one. And so I showed up. It's a Saturday morning. I'm there on time when they open, but there were no hairdressers when the doors opened. And so the first hairdresser to show up that day actually showed up late. And so that was my first interaction with this store. Not only did they show up late, but when the hairdresser walked through the door as the customer, I'm already on the inside, so I'm watching all this. And this hairdresser stumps her cigarette at the door. And that the last inhale was actually exhaled after she got inside the store.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. So of course I'm sitting in the chair and this person is working on my hair, but you can imagine what it smelled like, not even having exhaled your cigarette before you came to work that day. And I'm sitting there in a chair and I'm thinking to myself, and of course you're showing up and it's only 5 minutes late, so maybe you're up late the night before, whatever the case might be, but if you had just gotten up 10 minutes earlier, you would have been there 5 minutes earlier, and you would have an extra couple of minutes to light that cigarette while you were still at home, instead of sort of just rushing out the door, not having time to do, if that's what somebody needs to do. I'm not really recommending that,
Right.
smoking, but still there are things you can do, and you could have chewed a gum before you come to work that day so that
Right.
the customer didn't have to sit there and smell all of that. That wasn't done. And she started working on my hair. She never cleaned up her workstation from the night before.
Oh.
The hair was cleaned up for the most part, but she still brought out the broom in the morning. And the cables were tangled everywhere from the blow dryer and the clippers, and the cables were all tangled together. It only took her about 2 minutes to straighten everything up, but she's doing it while I'm sitting in the chair. And it would have been so easy to just take 2 minutes extra, 3 minutes extra the night before, make sure it's swept properly, make sure the hair from the previous customer is gone, make sure all these cables are untangled and all that.
It just looks more professional, and you just want to come back because it's a welcoming atmosphere. Where she didn't really provide a welcoming atmosphere, you're wondering, where am I now? What did I walk myself into?
Right.
Because it's just not, she was not on top of herself and on top of things. She was just not leading herself. She was just reacting to circumstances, so to speak.
The sad thing is this, that I know she could have had double pay somewhere else. This was a cheaper hair salon. It came with a friend's recommendation. I'm not going back. But this person could have easily gotten double pay. But it would mean show up on time, don't smoke in front of the customer, make sure you smell okay yourself, make sure your hair station is good. That is not even the workmanship of how you cut the hair, but it's
Right.
all the other surrounding items that really make a difference. Now, as she's cutting my hair, she complains about the place she works,
Oh no.
letting all the laundry out, so to speak. And I'm thinking to myself, I pay the company you're working for, the company pays you, but the way you're talking, I'm not even sure I want to come back here as a customer. You're actually chasing customers away by the way you're talking.
Right, you're not being a good ambassador for your workplace, and therefore you are actually causing the workplace to make less, which actually affects you as an employee of that
Exactly.
place.
So even if everything isn't perfect, you don't have to let every customer know that things aren't perfect. And then she complains about having to work on Saturday and says, yes, my bosses make me work on Saturday. And I'm thinking to myself, when I check the sign on this door, it says this place of business is open from Monday to Saturday. So you knew the place is open on Saturdays before you applied to work here. So why are you complaining about the opening hours
Right.
when you yourself, you chose this place of work? There's other places you could have worked, but maybe at those other places you could have worked, you can't show up late and you can't stump your cigarette at the door before you walk in.
Things hang together. I have a few scriptures that I'm thinking of right now, and I'm going to read them, and you can see the common denominator in these scriptures. It is still from the Passion Translation, and I'm going to start in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 14. For there is great satisfaction in speaking the truth, and hard work brings blessings back to you. Then let's skip over to the same chapter, but in verse 24 and 27 says, if you want to reign in life, don't sit on your hands. Instead, work hard at doing what's right. For the slacker will end up working to make someone else succeed. In verse 27, a passive person won't even complete a project, but a passionate person makes good use of his time, wealth, and energy. And then we have Proverbs 13, chapter 13 and verse 4. The slacker wants it all and ends up with nothing, but the hard worker ends up with all that he longed for. And then I want to end that with Proverbs chapter 24, and we're going to read verses 33 to 34. It says, professional work habits prevent poverty from becoming your permanent business partner. And if you put off until tomorrow the work you could do today, tomorrow never seems to come.
Yeah, those are some good scriptures and good advice from the richest person who ever lived.
Exactly. You know what it says? You have to embrace hard work. You got to embrace certain work habits that's going to make you successful. If not, poverty will become your permanent business partner.
There's something about hard work, and there is something about what you like. A lot of people think that what I like is what I like, but actually there is such a thing called an acquired taste. In other words, what you can change what you like.
Yeah.
I've done this with foods, for example.
Yeah.
There are foods that you can decide, you know what, let me learn how to tolerate this. Let me learn how to like this. I even did the same in school. English was not my favorite subject. Writing wasn't my favorite subject. And in college, I decided, you know what? Let me just embrace this. Let me decide to make the best out of this. So I changed my attitude about it and come to find out that everything went a lot smoother. Everything went a lot more easy. And when it comes to hard work, God really values hard work. He put man in the garden to work it and to till it. Work really is a God idea. Nothing increases in value. Society can never be fixed unless somebody works. And we should all be working because working produces value and working is pleasing to God. So find the scriptures that talk about good work, and as you meditate, read those scriptures on a regular basis, you'll find out that your liking of work will change. And you know what? It's a whole lot easier to make more money if you actually like working than just trying to work because I have to make a living.
Yeah, you change your attitude and the whole outcome will look different and you'll approach it from a different angle. And what you thought was hard is becoming easier.
So what you do becomes easier when you change your attitude. And that attitude can be changed. You can decide. Viktor Frankl, who was in Auschwitz, was one of the Jews there in Auschwitz. He watched people all around him die. And he said that he could see it, how people would give up hope before they got to the place of actually passing away. And he said, these people are evil. These people may have shackled me. They are forcing me to labor. But he said, the one thing I will not let them decide is I am not going to let my captors decide my attitude. And he actually wrote books about this. And of course, he came out of Auschwitz because he refused to have a bad attitude about things, even though a horrific situation that he was in. And so that is the way it is with work. If we will just change our attitude and start to like working, then it'll be a whole lot easier to bring home some more value in our paychecks also.
Yeah, and I want to just bring up the example of a painter. We've seen painters maybe come and paint a wall, paint a ceiling, and if they don't put a drip cloth underneath,
You're going to spill.
you're spilling. You will spill. It doesn't matter how careful you are, you will spill. So if you have not taken provision for your spill before it happens, guess what? When you're finished, the floor will look horrible. And a lot of times, because this can also happen with stain, we've seen people do varnish, for example, and they haven't provided for a drip cloth underneath. And so they are damaging the floor, and they are not seeing that responsibility was them. They actually caused damage that cost us money to fix. And if you can't fix it, it looks now horrible after they left. So their poor work habits cost more expenses for someone else than the value that they brought.
It's a principle to leave your work well and make sure the finish is done well. When you paint a wall, you don't paint just the middle of the wall and call it a done deal. You have to cut in all the corners correctly. And with paint, people don't notice when paint is on the right spot. People notice when the paint is in the wrong spot. So it's very important not to get paint in the places where you're not supposed to have it.
Right.
But as a principle, I see with a lot of workmanship, maybe you're delivering furniture that you made, and the varnish, the last coat of varnish is not on the furniture when you deliver it. We've seen this several times, and you come and says, I finished on time, but I'm going to have to come back and do another coat of varnish. Common stories. It doesn't need to be that way if you just time yourself more better so that everything is done on time and you tidy up. Maybe you're a gardener and you're coming to plant some new bushes. You have to remove some old bushes. And you just leave the bushes in a corner someplace instead of cleaning up and finding out where do waste go and take the stuff to the waste so that the homeowner doesn't have to clean up after you.
If you do those things, you have increased your value and people will pay more for having your services than having someone else's services. So if you want to increase, you just have to work harder and better.
Yes. One friend that we have, he does home remodeling, and he charges almost double. Now, what does he do that is different? He uses the same products as a lot of other home renovators, but he's able to charge almost double. What does it? Well, for one, he took the time to read books on sales. So he does a really good job in the sales process and is able to answer the homeowner's objections really well and really takes the time to listen. What does the homeowner really want instead of, and I've seen this with a lot of contractors, they have their own personal preferences and they want to push on to the customer what their own personal preferences is or are, instead of taking the time to really listen to what the customer's preferences are and then do your remodeling job to match with the customer preferences. You're really increasing value just there alone. And that's part of the sales process. This friend of ours, he does high-end remodeling. A lot of his customers are executives. They have high-paying jobs. They're very busy. Very often they'll work late into the night. But what he does is what we talked about in the last episode. He holds the project management, really make sure things are done on time and on schedule within budget and all of this. But every homeowner, if you have somebody working at your home, when you come home from your own work, you're going to be thinking, I wonder how things went today on the project with working on my home. What he does is every single day, he films a short clip, shows the homeowner what's happening, and sends it to their work. So if it's on their lunch break or whatever, they can watch what's happening at their home. So when they get home from the office, from their executive position, or they get home from work, coming to their home, they're not wondering what happened today. They've already seen a video what's happening. And all of their questions are answered along the way so that when they get home, they don't have to sit down for 30 minutes or 1 hour with the general contractor to go over everything that happened. These are the issues, these are the decisions you have to make, and all of that is happening in such a way that our friend who does the remodeling, he owns the project and he keeps the homeowner up to date on everything as it's coming. And he's going, in a day from now or in 2 days from now, there's a decision that's coming up. These are the two different kind of products that we have. Would you like product A? Would you like product B?
And he does a good job, so the homeowner doesn't have to wonder, have they done a good job, and they have to double check on the work. The work is done to the expectations of the one who ordered the work. And there's a huge difference in that. I was reminded, as you were talking about that, I was reminded about an episode that I encountered. It's a completely different scenario, but there was someone who's making clothes, and which is very common in Kenya. You have the Kenyan fabric, and they custom and tailor your clothes. I was to pick the fabric, and I was sent a bunch of pictures of different fabrics. And I picked the one I liked the most. But when he brought me one that was similar but different colors. By that time, it's too late because he already started working on it or something like that, or he purchased it at least, so he couldn't go back and take it back. I didn't want those colors. I have picked the ones I liked, and if that's not there, you should then send me pictures of what's there so I can pick again what I want.
Yeah.
So it's just an example of, oh, I couldn't find it, so I'm just going to give you something else. I don't want something else.
So part of this is don't make decisions on behalf of your customer.
Right.
Instead, take the time to listen to what the customer wants and make sure those decisions are made in line with your customer's expectation.
Right.
And what happens is you're going to get word of mouth referrals.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful form of advertising that there is.
It
You don't
is.
have to pay for that kind of advertising. But that's what happens when you do an excellent job. Then whoever you did that job for, they have friends, usually on the same economic level.
Yep.
And they will talk to their friends about, you know what, if you ever need curtains, if you never ever need a home remodeling, if you ever need XYZ product,
Painting. Yeah.
talk to this person because they can really do a great job.
Right.
And so you want to do things to such a level that you get those referrals, and your sales process is going to go a whole lot easier as well.
Right. So there's many factors. We talked about many factors, but they're all important. And if you really want to increase, you listen to what we've said and take to heart what we've said and try to do something with them in all the areas. Because if you can make that, give a product or a service that wholeness that we're talking about, you can really elevate your financial value because you can attract customers who are looking for that, and people are willing to pay more when you got your things together yourself.
So there are those that can charge 30% more, 50% more, 100% more. You can't just go out and charge 30% more. You have to ask yourself, what are they doing better?
Exactly.
And then you have to implement those things in your practice. And then with time, you will increase. We want you to increase. God wants you to increase. We want excellence everywhere. These are the things we've talked about now for a couple of episodes.
Yes, we hope that's been helpful for you. So just put them to practice and see a change in your life and in your business, whatever you are working on.
God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into the Safari Mission podcast. We hope you've been blessed today. To learn more about us, visit safarimission.org. You can also follow along with our ministry and work in East Africa on Facebook, Instagram, X, which is Twitter, and YouTube at Safari Mission. To purchase any books written by Reverend Vidar, visit safarimission.org. If you're interested in joining Rhema Bible Training College Kenya, visit rhemakenya.org or call 07-14-915-799. We'll be back next week for more teaching. Until then, God bless you.